Hey everybody, it looks like we have a good audience here. Thank you for making time. So today we're going to talk about building a winning business case for cloud modernization. To introduce myself, my name is Sumudu Mathew. I am a director of client strategy here at Infinite Lambda. So I have been around for a while, helping many clients in Europe with transformation efforts. You might recognize some of the logos of clients that I've helped. So my expertise is in business and transformation strategy, and I usually spend my time de-risking transformations, typically leading discovery and design efforts. Agile transformation is close to my heart, and I really do my best to guide and focus on value-driven outcomes when working with clients. And of course, feel free to follow me and on LinkedIn, as well as adding me. So before we begin, a little bit about Infinite Lambda. We are a global consultancy and academy focused on data and AI. We help customers across the world to help them build powerful, fast, and slow data capabilities. For example, fast use cases like intelligent apps, machine learning, and GenAI, and slow foundational use cases like BI, analytics, and data science. And the thing is about Influence is that we don't just strategize. We also help teams to innovate, build, and mentor. We have roughly about 250 data and AI projects. Yeah, so quite a few. And that includes about 70 legacy modernizations using our tried and tested tools and methodologies. So this webinar is intended for folk who believe that there is a need to upgrade their legacy stack, but are struggling to get buy-in. Typically, a number of technical folk, like architects, technical leads, come to me for advice on approach and strategy. So first, we're going to talk about the misalignment. Why, when people talk about cloud modernization, that there seems to be a chasm to cross. We then look at developing a viable business case, delving into the three key sections: strategic alignment, transformation strategy, and the proposal. This webinar is going to be interactive, so we will have some activities. And in the end, I'm going to give away some practical templates that I use, which you can take away to try to use on your own. To start off, I found this quote: without a business case, a project is just a hobby. I don't know who wrote this, but it's so good, so good. Okay, so let's talk about the misalignment. Let's take a hypothetical scenario. Assume you have a legacy data estate running on mainframes, and it's time to modernize. By legacy modernization, I mean updating and transforming outdated software systems, applications, infrastructure to align with current and future business needs and tech advancements. So taking that same example, say you have a need to modernize your company's legacy data estate. And in modernizing this estate, let's assume you decide to adopt cloud modernization and you want to go with the modern data stack. So you have the usual suspects like Fivetran, dbt Labs, Snowflake, ThoughtSpot, and Sigma. So who can tell me, and if you can type in the chat, the benefits of going for a cloud modernization? Can everybody start typing into the chat? I'll give a few minutes or seconds. I can't see anybody typing, but I can give an example. For example, cost optimization is a factor. Flexibility is another. Let's see if we get any more answers. think I see a message, but I think I can't see what the response is. But I guess it's fine. We'll move on. So I have put a good few here. Check if I've missed anything. We have reliability, efficiency, scalability, flexibility, performance, agility, optimization, faster deployment, lower cost, real time, elasticity, and the list goes on, right? Okay, now I'm going to tell you a real conversation that happened in the past over a multi-million pound transformation. So this team has been working for a while, doing good work. After they finished the business case, they went to the sponsor. The client sponsor read the business case, and what it said was that it's time to modernize their estate. Fantastic. The business case had many benefits, both long-term and short-term. It was also cost-effective. The business case even had a calculation of what the cost savings were going to be. And the sponsor's response was, I don't see the real value in going for this. It's not aligned to what we want to achieve as an organization. Changing what we have is risky. I'm going to go ahead and upgrade our mainframe. The team who prepared the business case was shocked. It was the client who said that the mainframe was outdated and that it was very costly to run. To drive home the point, I want to showcase the features of an IBM Z series mainframe. It's used by 92% of the top banks, can survive an earthquake, it has AI inference, it's also quantum safe, so it protects you security-wise from the future of quantum computing advancements. With the exception of perhaps flexibility, almost all of the cloud benefits are present and in this mainframe. And I'm positive an IBM sales rep will most definitely be able to argue for a lower cost of ownership. According to a 2024 Forrester report, among global infrastructure hardware decision makers, 61% said that their firms use a mainframe. And of those that use mainframes, 54% said that their organization would increase its use of mainframes over the next 2 years. So, a controversial statement. Benefits are not business value. Features certainly are not, and neither is a migration, a replatform, or a modernization. None of these are business value. So, what is a business value? It's important, in my opinion, to understand this in order to write a winning business case. Benefits are what the business realizes and experience as a result of the changes that were implemented by an effective transformation. Value is the benefit the customer will be able to experience, and it is what they're willing to pay for. This is an important distinction. Let me repeat that again. Benefits are what the business realizes and experience as a result of the changes that were implemented by an effective transformation. Value is the benefit the customers will be able to experience, and it is what they're willing to pay for. And that's the distinction in the previous example the team which prepped the business case failed to realize. A business strategy is a plan that outlines how a company will achieve its long-term business goals, the what, and maintain a competitive position, the why. It guides decisions on resource allocation, market positioning, and overall direction. The business case is a commercial justification for a proposed transformation initiative based on its expected commercial benefit. The key question to ask here is, should we? Should we go ahead with this transformation project based on the projected returns? The enterprise transformation is a comprehensive change process that impacts an organization's operations, people, technology, and sometimes culture. It's about how the business evolves to meet strategic goals or adapt to disruption. Think of business strategy as the blueprint and the trigger for the transformation, and enterprise transformation as the remodeling process to bring the blueprint to life. And finally, it is the outcome of the enterprise transformation that will create new capabilities for the business. In other words, the benefits, which would in turn create business value for its customers. After a business strategy is created, a business case helps decision makers assess the transformation projects in terms of commercial benefit, alignment to strategic goals, and it helps them to come to a decision on whether it's worth pursuing. Broadly, it has three sections: the executive summary, which covers strategic alignment; options analysis, which covers the transformation strategy; and the proposal, which covers recommendations. First, let's discuss strategic alignment, which is about aligning to business strategy and the business value the strategy is trying to realize. If you take away nothing else, take away this, because in my opinion, this is the crux of writing a good business case. Organizations exist to create value. Nothing more, nothing less. So how does it create value? At its core, value represents a difference. The difference can be visualized here with a tool known as the value stick, which has 4 components. The difference between each component represents the value created for each stakeholder. A business strategy seeks to widen these gaps, increasing the value created by companies' activities. For example, the difference between the customer's willingness to pay for a good or service and its price represents the value the business has created for the customer. So let's go back to the example at the beginning. Let's take an example of modernizing a legacy data estate. Let's assume in this estate we have a on-premise data center, Oracle ATI databases, Talent and Informatica as ETL tools, SQL Server 2000, and SSAS for data warehousing. Now you know that this estate is old. You know the benefits of cloud. But how should you change your mindset so this migration can be repositioned as a transformation? Your mindset should change from how can I do this modernization to how will this modernization impact our customers? You need to ask, what are my organization's goals for the next 2 to 3 years? So with this in mind, could you tell me what data use cases will potentially delight your customers, which would result in customers paying more? If you can type some answers, what you think, there's no right or wrong answers in the chat. I can give one example. One would be personalization. And I'll tell you in a while why that is the case. Could you type a few answers in the chat, please? Yeah, increase customer retention. That's a very good one. Anything else? I'll give it a few more seconds if I see if I get any more answers. No? Okay. So here are a couple of more. So increasing customer retention, absolutely. So we also have, so I can also put in customer support and rewarding loyalty. Great customer support will undoubtedly have a positive effect on customers. A lot of startups, in fact, focus on this. And of course, rewarding loyalty will help lock in customers. So it's really important that we know the business strategy of the organization so that the use cases align to the strategy and the use cases are capable of achieving the organization's business goals. Let's take an example. Let's take loyalty program as a use case. Let's assume there is a strategic goal of increasing the organization's market share by 5% and gain a competitive advantage by locking in customers. Hypothetically, we can achieve this by creating a loyalty program, which will provide discounts and exclusive perks to the customers. So now the intention is to increase market share by creating a loyalty program. And as a consequence, some of the legacy estate you have will need to be upgraded. And with that example and what I've said, I hope I've managed to convince some of you to change your approach and mindset. And in fact, it's about, most people already know what the use cases are, but it's about the positioning that needs to be envisaged. So it's about practice, and it's about doing that approach and seeing that alignment and seeing it from a different perspective, a perspective from the organizations, a perspective from the customer that will change and align your needs with the company's needs. So moving on, in addition to this strategic alignment, the executive summary of the business case needs to have these other pieces of content. We need to start, of course, with the problem or opportunity statement. Next, the strategic goals and the use cases or bets that will realize those goals and deliver the promised set of value. And finally, a summary of the proposed solution and its benefits and the recommendation. This concludes the executive summary section. Let's now look at the second part, which is the analysis of viable options, to analyze viable options to come up with a transformation strategy. Having a good grasp of the current operating model of the organization is essential to creating a viable target operating model. The framework you see here is my adaptation of the 7 levers framework by the Open Group. I want to stress that it's important to analyze all 7 levers. This will ensure that the business case takes into consideration the transformation impact across the organization to ensure business continuity. It will also help you to understand the potential cost savings and risk. Assuming now that we have done a current operating model analysis, typically called a discovery, and have a good understanding, we now need to evaluate different target operating models. These TOMs need to align with business goals and deliver value. Like we discussed, using our previous example, modernizing the legacy estate will unlock customer data. This data will help to create a loyalty platform. This can be a potential delivery in the target operating model along with the modernizations and the new features that will need to be developed. Again, like the current operating model, the TOM requires the same coverage of looking at impact across the 7 levers. Let's take a look at the technology lever as an example. This example shows delivery and solution options considerations. Delivery strategies include incremental improvements, piloting phased approaches, and decisions between in-house development or purchasing solutions. Solution options can involve cloud optimization through refactoring or a full transformation involving system rebuilds. Of course, a key point when considering different options is to decide whether to retire or retain existing systems. In addition, tech leads and architects will also consider to look at numerous other factors such as future architecture, including modern data stack options, system integrations, data flow and storage, scalability, performance, deployment strategy, and so on. And finally, in the options analysis, it's about setting key performance indicators. Setting key performance indicators in transformations is critical because they act as the compass that keeps the entire effort aligned, measurable, and accountable. A leading indicator is a variable that predicts future events. We can measure it from conducting experiments or doing proof of concepts, and so on. A lagging indicator is a variable that reflects past events. We can measure it from data from transformations that have been completed. I want to tell a quick story about an organization with the largest fleet of leased vehicles in the UK. This organization had a strategic goal to be a greener company and reduce its carbon emissions. It had a bet that it could achieve this by selling more electric cars while also increasing revenue and reducing costs because of lower repair costs at the end of the lease. They assumed it would also benefit their customers because of lower running costs and lower maintenance costs. The managers, however, adopted to test this assumption. They commissioned a research study as well as an experiment, creating a landing page for existing customers who were at the end of their lease. What they found out was that the perception of the customers were completely different to what the organization had assumed. The customers had thought that running an EV was more expensive, and most of them had range anxiety. So this helped the customer to focus on educating customers as well as working with manufacturers to address range anxiety. The organization significantly de-risked their initiative and pivoted to get better outcomes. So if you look at this diagram, you'll notice that, and this is quite typical, in most cases, there is a tendency to have lagging indicators at a strategic level, and there would be the opportunity to have leading indicators at the delivery level. So it's important to set these leading indicators, do the experiments and proof of concepts to assess whether to get quick feedback as to see whether the organization and whether you're on the right track. This concludes the second part, which is the options analysis section. And the last section of the business case is the proposal, which has 4 areas to cover. The recommendation, which has the proposed solution and the benefits, a cost-benefit analysis, a transformation roadmap, and a risk assessment. With the recommendation, an important consideration is that it doesn't always have to be a yes. Based on your assessment, it can be a recommendation to not proceed with the transformation. Okay. Let's look at cost-benefit analysis, which is one of the key sections which a decision maker would look at when making their decisions. The point of doing a cost-benefit analysis in a transformation is to objectively evaluate whether the initiative is worth pursuing. This is based on a balance of value versus cost. It helps with the decision-making, the financial justification, understanding of non-financial factors, as well as risk awareness, but by bringing out potential risks and hidden costs. It also helps with accountability and tracking. So there are a few elements to consider here. Capital and operational costs are expenses required to implement and run the transformation. In practicality, you can get this by by calling out for RFPs from potential vendors. Revenue generation measures the additional income the transformation is expected to bring in. This is usually a projection based on the existing sales and the increase expected. Factors like increased client lifetime value, increased market share can be taken into consideration. Cost savings are efficiencies or expense reductions achieved through the transformation. Like revenue, this is also a projection based on increased volume, i.e. productivity, or anticipated increased output. Examples of intangible benefits are improved brand reputation, better customer experience, reduced risk of non-compliance, and maybe customer satisfaction. These are all non-financial or hard to quantify advantages, but still, they add value. And finally, bringing it all together would be the ROI, the return on investment, typically calculated using the internal rate of return, which is a financial metric used to evaluate the profitability of an investment. When evaluating a transformation proposal, there will be unequal cash flows. This is because the ROI tends to fluctuate from one year to the next. So simpler methods like annualized ROI will not be adequate. The definition here is slightly complicated, but bear with me. It's the discount rate at which the net present value of all future cash flows equals to zero. It's the discount rate at which the net present value of all future cash flows equals to zero. Let me try to explain. Looking at the example, there is an initial investment of £100,000 with cash flows of £125,000 over 5 years. By cash flows, I mean cost savings or additional revenue. The cash inflow row totals, well, the inflows, whereas the net cash flow row sums up both the outflow as well as the cash inflow for each year. You will need to use a calculator, but for this example, the IR is 8.64. It's at a discount of 8.64 that the net present value becomes zero. So what does that mean? So what do people think? I mean, is that good? Is that bad? Any idea? Can anybody type in the chat? Any views on this? Is it a great return? What do you think? I'll give like 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds to think about it. Okay. So, like with anything, the right answer is it depends. It depends on the company's hurdle rate. The hurdle rate is the minimum acceptable return the company is prepared to accept based on an investment. It certainly should be higher than the gilt or the bond rates. So in this case, if the hurdle rate was 8%, this project would be acceptable. Whereas if it was 10%, this project would not be acceptable. So do reach out to me, if you have any questions on this. But then let's go to, sorry. This is not a transformation roadmap. Neither is a project plan. A project plan outlines detailed tasks, resources, and schedules required to execute the roadmap. Whereas a transformation roadmap communicates the strategic direction and the big picture timeline of a transformation. The detail level is low. It shows themes or goals over time, typically over quarters or years. If you take an example, say Q3, we're going to launch the pilot program. Q4, we're going to expand into the business units, starting with finance. A transformation roadmap should have small phased increments by breaking down the transformation into manageable phases to ensure gradual and steady progress. It should be domain-driven, meaning focus on specific domains or areas that are critical to the business first. It should be feedback-driven, meaning it should regularly incorporate feedback to refine or adjust the strategy or the direction. It should be value-driven, ensuring that each phase delivers tangible value to the organization. If you're an established business, I want to stress the importance of a risk assessment. A risk assessment identifies potential risks or challenges and how they will be mitigated. Adding this to your business case shows your sponsors that you have thought through various possible challenges and have a plan to manage them. This is a typical list that I've categorized. And of course, Infinite Lambda are experts in de-risking transformation risk. For each risk identified, we would need to understand the likelihood and the impact. So both of which is typically denoted by, say, low, medium, high. We would need to outline risk mitigation strategies, i.e. the proactive plan. We would need to understand the residual risk not covered by the mitigation strategies, and also have a contingency plan, which is the reactive plan. And with that, we conclude the proposal section. So now we have covered all elements of a business case, including all of these topics in a business case, in my opinion, will contribute to an airtight business case. So at the beginning of this webinar, I promised that I will share some templates that I use, which could be useful to you when developing your business case. So please scan the QR code to download the templates. The first template by Strategizer helps you to assess your customers, their pains, and evaluates how new products and services would impact them. The second template by the Balanced Scorecard Institute takes the learning of customers and helps you to look at which levers you can pull to create a viable strategy. Both templates have step-by-step instructions and will help you assess whether your initiatives are aligned with your organizations. So if you run into any problems or do feel to reach out to me. And if you like this webinar, do follow me and Infinite Lambda on LinkedIn for more insights and articles on enterprise transformation. So with that, thank you for listening. Does anybody have any questions? Excellent question. So how much time does it usually take to build a proper business case? I would say it depends. If your going with a smaller increment with a phased approach, you can develop the business case just for that. And so the time it would take would be shorter. But then if you're looking at a entire department or maybe the entire organization, then the effort would be much more. So it could last anywhere between, say, 1 to 2 months, maybe up to several months. But I would say keep it shorter than longer, because business changes, your environment changes, everything is changing. So your assumptions which you formed at the beginning of the business case might not be valid when you come to the end of it. So I would say keep it shorter and go for a small set of phased increments. So in short, I wouldn't do it for more than, say, I would typically say 1 to 3 months, really. But then it is an investment, so which you would need to do. But it is a worthwhile investment, because you would set the scene, you would know the risks, you would draw the benefits, and most importantly, you would draw the risks. I hope that answered the question. Okay, so there's another question. If you had an unsuccessful attempt with your business case, what are some tips for getting your decision makers to reconsider and review your updated version, mitigating their bias? I would say almost you would get the no on you would get a perhaps no, we don't want to proceed, or maybe your recommendation is no. But I assume here what you're saying is we did the recommendation to go ahead with the project, but the sponsors are saying actually that we need to reconsider. What I would do is I would want to listen to their considerations, and then I would go back to basics. I would want to understand what the organization's goals are. So, because I would have expected that the business case would have considered the organization goals and the business strategy, and the use cases that's present in the business case would align with them. So the first thing that I think we would need to do is understand why the use cases there is why is it not aligned with the sponsor's thinking. So then you would have a good amount of feedback to go and redo your business case, or it might be that you accept the sponsor's decision and perhaps continue on another path. Yeah, I think that's it. Is any follow-up questions on that? So we'll be for people who have registered. So we'll be sending out this recording later on, and you may have questions later on when you're actually doing the use case. So if you do have any questions, so please feel free to reach out. But I guess if there are no more questions, or I guess perhaps it's time to conclude. It's been really great delivering this webinar, and I'm really happy that you made time to come and attend this. I hope you've learned a bit from this session. I know it was a lot to take in, so we covered many areas that perhaps takes time to digest. But yes, take your time, digest, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much, folks.